After Robespierre's fall, the French Revolution teetered on. The Committee of Public Safety was replaced by another executive called the Directory. But France remained at war with nearly all of Europe. Revolutionaries had declared war on kings around the world, and as such had found themselves at war with Britain, Prussia, Austria, Russia, Spain, the Ottoman Empire, and various states in Italy. Against all odds, French armies held these enemies off. Revolutionaries recruited huge armies and put them under some of the best generals in world history. Among those commanders was a man named Napoleon Bonaparte, a Corsican officer who rapidly rose to the ranks of the French army. But with the military reigning supreme, Bonaparte and others tired of civilian officials standing in their way, whatever their commitment to revolutionary ideas. In 1799, Napoleon, fresh from campaigning in Egypt and the Levant, overthrew the French government and declared himself, in proper classical fashion, first consul. 5 years later, he crowned himself emperor. Napoleon remained at war with the anti-revolutionary coalition. His enemies repeatedly sought peace, but as one victory led to another, Napoleon would stop at nothing except total dominance of Europe. He expanded French borders far into the central part of the continent, conquered Italy, vanquished Austria and Prussia, and in 1808 added Spain to his dominions as well. Not content with simply defeating Russia, in 1812 he would aim to conquer it, taking an army of 600,000 men deep into Russian territory. This would ultimately prove to be his undoing. The Russians engaged in scorched earth tactics, depriving Napoleon of food and shelter, and when the French emperor took Moscow, he found the city a smoldering ruin. Forced to retreat, Napoleon then had to deal with the brutal Russian winter. The Russian Tsar Alexander I was fond of saying that his two favorite generals were January and February. The anti-French coalition gradually regained its strength, and in 1814 he would be forced to abdicate. Napoleon was exiled to Elba in the Mediterranean, but the following year he escaped and regained power in France. He became emperor for 100 days, a reign cut short by his defeat at Waterloo. British forces under the Duke of Wellington held firm against the French advance, and Napoleon's reign would finally be at an end. He was exiled to St. Helena in the South Atlantic, where he died in 1821. Despite the fury of the Russian winter, it was British power and Britain's ability to hold out that defeated Napoleon. Even at the height of his power, Napoleon was unable to invade England, the English Channel being guarded by the might of the Royal Navy. In 1805, on the eve of some of Napoleon's greatest victories on land, the Royal Navy under Horatio Nelson scattered Napoleon's fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar. This was only the latest in a series of British naval victories. Napoleon's dreams of conquest in the Middle East, for instance, were destroyed by Nelson's earlier victory at the Battle of the Nile in 1799. But the British were not the only enemy that humbled Napoleon. We covered the Haitian Revolution 2 weeks ago as well. Haiti's rebels overthrew the slave-owning aristocracy in Saint-Domingue and declared a republic. Napoleon hoped to reconquer Haiti, and in a subversion of the revolution's ideals, unsurprising perhaps for an emperor, sought to restore slavery as well. His wife, Josephine, was from a slave-owning family on the French colony of Martinique. French armies invaded Haiti and captured the rebel leader Toussaint Louverture. But those same armies soon began suffering from the debilitating effects of tropical diseases, compounded, of course, by near constant ambushes in Haiti's rugged territory. Eventually, Napoleon would be forced to retreat and concede Haitian independence in the process. Napoleon's defeat there had multiple consequences for the Americas. The French emperor had bullied Spain into returning Louisiana to France. It had been given to Spain by France during the 1760s, and Napoleon hoped that Louisiana might be populated by hardy French farmers who would provide the newly reconstituted slave society of Haiti with bread and other staples. But with Haiti independent, Napoleon could see no purpose for Louisiana in his empire, especially when the British Royal Navy would stand in the way of any maritime traffic between that colony and Europe. Moreover, Napoleon needed money for his land campaigns back at home. So when the American president Thomas Jefferson sent an emissary to Paris with an offer to buy the port of New Orleans, whose strategic presence at the mouth of the Mississippi would aid American commerce, Napoleon countered with an offer to sell all of Louisiana. This included territory far beyond the borders of the current state of Louisiana. It extended as far as modern Denver and as far north as Montana. The U.S. border had previously been fixed at the Mississippi River, and the addition of nearly 1 million square miles of territory would create a new frontier of settlement. In class, we'll consider the importance of the frontier for American history. Frederick Jackson Turner argued that the persistence of a frontier shaped the very existence of American democracy. American settlers headed west, following what they saw as their manifest destiny. Indigenous peoples already lived in those lands, of course, but in time those settlers would establish a country that stretched from sea to shining sea. But America was hardly the only place with a seemingly boundless frontier. Russia too would expand from sea to shining sea, in this case from the Baltic in the west to the Pacific in the east. But the conquest and subjugation of Siberia would not exactly produce democracy in Russia. Far from it. Instead, Russians have long felt pulled between the West and an imagined East. In class, we'll ponder the reasons why that is.